that's everybody.
Yeah, we're only about a quarter of way through this all.
Yeah, this took even longer than I thought. All right.
We could limit the discussion time to like 4 minutes or something.
I think so.
Yeah, I do agree.
You think 4
time
minutes?
can drop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's 7 of us, so there's 7 minutes. There's 7 minutes total of personal discussion.
That's true. Okay.
Yes,
So I'll make it 4
20 seconds or so in between each one.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of relitigating and bullshit in the discussion, frankly, at least. Which is fine. It's good content, but we can trim that fat.
Let's go to the next one. So the next
All right.
matchup is Breath of the Wild versus Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. Maceo, you're first.
All right. This is just an unwinnable round. Okay, I'm just gonna straight up say Breath of the Wild is, in my opinion, like the best game overall, just in the world, in my personal opinion. Now, for this pick, in the context of like it being a sequel stuff, I feel like Zelda games in general, since they kind of exist just on their own, they're not exactly like a proper sequel in my opinion. Whereas Wolfenstein, to me, Wolfenstein 2, as a big fan of both of them, I think that it's like it does sequel super well. It continues its story in an awesome way. It gives you phenomenal enjoyment just ripping Nazis apart. So on those grounds, I'm going to give it to Wolfenstein 2, but Breath of the Wild is one of the greatest, if not the greatest game ever made, bar none.
All right. Thank you, Maceo. Next, let's go to Max.
Okay. I'm just going to do some stuff for Breath of the Wild. The Legend of Zelda series is already one of the highest rated, best-selling, most awarded, and most popular series of like all time. But Breath of the Wild like really sets itself apart. I mean, it was rated like 97% on Metacritic, 10 out of 10 on IGN. It was awarded like Game of the Year. It's so popular. It has a prequel and a sequel set for release. One of them comes out this year. The first and most obvious, like, cool fucking thing about this game is that it just has such it does open world amazingly. You can interact with fucking anything. You can pick up things off the ground. You can hack a tree off and then use it to shoot yourself halfway across the map. You can...
Max.
Boy, you can get cut off halfway through a
accomplishing
sentence.
things and doing cool stuff. You can find beautiful places.
Okay, thank you, Max. We're getting to time, but I think we got the gist.
Yep.
All right. Next, let's go to Mark.
Yeah, they're both good, but Yingala, Schmeckel, so many great. As a Yid myself, there's so many good Yiddishisms in Wolfenstein 2. I will critique. I do feel like B.J. Blazkowicz deserves to have his Jewish background explored a little better, but it's a fun shoot 'em up game. It doesn't matter. Breath of the Wild is a game that I started and couldn't finish because I had other things to do. But it seemed pretty fun. My one critique is that it does seem like there is kind of a through line of how a lot of other Zelda games work, and this one was very much like taking the kind of the classic trappings of an open world game that other genres had established and sort of grafting Zelda onto it. But that's the very hot take. I totally understand if people don't agree with that. And I would probably go with Zelda. I'll go with Zelda.
All right. Next, let's go to Sam.
I haven't played either, so you guys are gonna have to sway me in the discussions.
Okay, that was easy. Next, let's go to Matt.
What I was gonna say before we started the discussion for this, I wasn't back from the break yet. There's no chance between these two. I played both to completion, but Breath of the Wild is just too astronomically superior to every Zelda that came before it than Wolfenstein could even try and compete with. So no discussion, no nothing from me. I just don't think there's a chance. Go ahead.
Right.
I mean, I don't think I can cover anything about Breath of the Wild that hasn't been said already. Really good game, and I never played Wolfenstein 2 myself, but I did watch Mark and Zach play it pretty much start to finish back at good old 690. Great game, and I think there's the argument that can be made that Breath of the Wild technically isn't the sequel. Yes, it's a new addition to the Zelda franchise, and it really just changed up everything of what a Zelda game can be. And to quote a favorite YouTuber of mine is, I didn't know that games had me in chains till Zelda set me free in Breath of the Wild. Great game. As a sequel, kind of a weaker argument, I guess, but I still can't in good conscience vote Wolfenstein over Breath of the Wild.
All right, thank you, Alex. I'll go last. I have not played Wolfenstein 2. I have played Breath of the Wild, not fully through, but most of the way through. And I am in the middle of giving my pitch. And what I'll say is that I think people have talked a lot about how innovative Breath of the Wild is, how much it adds to the formula. How much of that is grandstanding and how much of that is actually true is a little bit debatable. But I think it did genuinely improve on the Zelda formula and add some interesting things to open world. Whereas Wolfenstein 2, I really haven't heard much about it being innovative. I mean, I'm sure it's a good game, but I never really heard a lot about it, massively improving or revolutionizing the things that were started in Wolfenstein 1. So I think for me, it also has to be Breath of the Wild. All right, let's go to general discussion.
All right. Start off the discussion.
Can I start this one?
Yeah, go for it.
So I just want to say, again, I am, Breath of the Wild is the better game, hands down. I'm sticking with Wolfenstein 2 just because it has a special place in my heart. And I think in the realm of sequel world, I just think it works better as its own sequel. I will say, in response to what you were saying about not being innovative or anything, well, I just think it got overlooked in a lot of respects. I'm surprised how many people in our friend group did actually play it. I thought I was one of the only ones. But I think that there is something to be said. Huh? What?
What was that, Max?
Max?
This boy cutting out.
Yeah.
He's doing even worse than me, and I have the worst internet.
We can't hear you, Max.
Yeah.
We can't hear you, Max.
Fucking robot ass.
Damn.
Well,
Poor guy.
All right. I'm gonna try
but
again.
yeah.
wait. Max,
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Jesus!
Sorry.
Max, you gotta troubleshoot over there.
Wolfenstein 2 came out, and then something else that was very big came out 2 weeks after it came out, and so it was completely overshadowed by whatever else. So if you didn't hear about it, that's probably why.
But yeah, I think there is something to be said, and I feel like this can kind of almost be applied to both this and Breath of the Wild. I mean, Breath of the Wild did innovate in a lot of beautiful ways, but I think that there's something to be said of not necessarily innovation, but polishing a form of gameplay to its pinnacle of success. Because in any medium, there's only so much you can innovate. There's only so much you can actually change something and really evolve something. But having it be perfectly pinned to where it's just pure enjoyment, I think both these games did that phenomenally. And I really love Wolfenstein. It's a game that I think is massively underrated, and just it did so much fun stuff. It had great stealth mixed in with great just madness and shooting, and a phenomenally beautiful story, despite it just being a crazy bullet hell game.
All right. I think
Breath of the Wild.
how I'm going to vote. Does anyone else want to discuss more before we get to it?
I'd like to just say one more thing about Breath of the Wild is that at first glance and at surface level, if you don't really explore the extent of what you can do with the different abilities and the Sheikah Slate in Breath of the Wild, it can seem a little lackluster compared to all the fanfare it gets. But if you also watch some of the best players who come up with the craziest ability combos and things that you can just do in combat or exploration, then you really get a really just awesome understanding and appreciation for how much freedom the player really has in Zelda. I don't think that level of creativity or freedom has been really present in any other Zelda game ever. So, yeah.
I completely agree.
All right, we got 45 seconds left. Anyone else got something they want to talk about?
I'm just gonna say
I'm
it's
ready to
Metal
vote. You guys have swayed me.
Mark.
Zelda's Metal Gear for people who are who actually want a compelling story,
Metal Gear.
which is asking too much. You're asking too much.
I mean, Metal Gear is one of the
Anyway.
few games that had such good gameplay it didn't fucking matter.
Anyway,
It was
all
an
right, let's-
amazing story. Okay, it had its moments.
yeah, it did. It did.
All
It did
right,
a-
all right. We're here to
Incredible.
talk about Breath of the
Incredible.
Wild and Wolfenstein, not Metal Gear.
Hey man, it's shared things. Amazing story.
Anyway, vote. Come
All
here,
right,
vote.
time to vote. Oh, sorry, I have to give the examples, don't I?
Give me my fucking
They
examples.
are the
man.
same things as every time, but it's okay.
All right, let's just move right on. I don't think we even need to describe who
I
I
don't think
want.
so.
We
Yeah.
don't even really need to talk about
I
it.
love
You
you,
know, but,
buddy.
this is anti-Semitism, but that's okay. It's
I'd just like to briefly say
hold on,
Nazis
hold on.
bad.
I am part
Not
Jewish.
very bad.
I don't consider this anti-Semitism.
wow. Well, folks, we have an impasse. All right, let's move on.
Mark's full Jewish,
Move
and he
on.
says that I'm not. So.
Okay. Mass Effect 2 versus Red Redemption 2. Maceo?
Red Dead Redemption.
Red
Yes,
Redemption.
Red Dead Redemption 2. Excuse?
Everyone,
Uh,
a lot of it.
Redemption.
Okay, I've never played Mass Effect before. I'll just say that straight up. It's just never something I was really into a whole lot. I do think there's a lot of really cool parts to it, and it's, I think it does branching stories really well, from what I can tell. But for me, I have to give it to Red Dead Redemption 2. That was just a beautiful, sprawling story. It's definitely a slower game. I enjoyed that a lot. I know some people felt that it was too slow, but I really loved the pace of it. The missions were very exciting. I felt like they had some very cinematic and exciting missions for an open world game. The voice acting was phenomenal, and yeah, I just thought it was a really, really beautiful world and really beautiful, just game to explore and just take everything in. And kind of like Breath of the Wild, there was just so much to find. So Red Dead.
All right, thank you, Maceo. Next, let's go to Max.
Hello.
Yep, I want to preface this by saying that I have not played Red Dead Redemption. I have watched it played. It looks super fucking cool, but I'm going to make a point for Mass Effect 2. I want to say that the first Mass Effect was like cinematic, dramatic, fun, emotional, like all of those things. The bonds you made with your allies like legitimately changed the course of the story, and all of their like side quests felt more meaningful than any other side quest that I can think of. And Mass Effect 2 does everything that the first game did, but like way better. It's got better fighting mechanics, better powers, better story, more characters, and better exploration. With Mass Effect to be one of the most fun and rewarding games that I've ever experienced, the sequel to it was even way better than I expected it to be and way more fun.
All right, thank you, Max. Next, let's hear from Mark.
I'm gonna kind of go along with Max here. I have not played Mass Effect 2 and Red Dead Redemption 2. Like the single player is, it is a massive leap for impressive, dense storytelling, which again, one would have to expect from Rockstar at this point with how much fucking like the GDP of an island nation. But the thing is like with the single player is like 2-3 steps forward, but the multiplayer like one step back, man. That shit, they truly dropped the ball on that. Like Red Dead 1 actually had pretty fun multiplayer, and Red Dead 2, like I took a peek recently at what's going on in there, and I fucking turned right back around. It is just really sad to see that it didn't have nearly the attention of the single player, which I get, but like, I think that docks points, man. It sucks.
All right, thank you, Mark. That's time. Next, let's hear from Sam.
So I'm gonna go ahead and start with, I haven't played either of these. I really wanted to play Red Dead, but Red Dead came out at a time where I had very little money, so I couldn't really afford shit. I do know Red Dead is, a lot of people say, the reason why the next GTA never came out. Because Rockstar was so focused on trying to make Red Dead as much as they could, as best as they could, that they never worried about doing another GTA. So I have little to no experience with Mass Effect at all. I've never seen a YouTube video. Whereas Red Dead, I've watched like funny moments, funny glitches, And so the only thing I'm going to associate this with is the joy of like laughing at the stupid glitches that I've seen from Red Dead Redemption 2. And so I'm going to go with Red Dead this time.
All right, thank you.
But with that being said, you guys might be able to sway me in the discussion.
All right, thank you, Sam. Next, let's hear from Matt.
Okay, so I have played both of these very minimally. I played like 1 or 2 missions from each one, and my general consensus is that they're both like pretty well thought out games, and both have like very like immersive worlds. However, in my opinion, I think Red Dead, as Dunkey says in his video, it kind of plays itself. And so, like, it is beautiful and all that, but, like, I think my vote is for Mass Effect just because I think it innovated a little bit more other than just, like, Red Dead that looks pretty, but kind of plays itself like the first one did a little bit. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Matt. Next, let's hear from Alex.
Yeah, also haven't played either of these games, but I've only ever heard good things of both the Mass Effect trilogy, excluding Andromeda, because that was a piece of shit. And I've only ever heard good things of both Red Dead and Red Dead 2. But I've seen more gameplay of Red Dead 2, and a good friend of ours, Zach, is a huge Red Dead fan, and just the joy I saw in Zach's face when Red Dead 2's trailer first dropped, it's probably like one of the happiest moments I've ever seen Zach in my life. And I think that says a lot about Red Dead 2. And the fact that they, at least for the single player mode story, that they lived up to the expectations and hype that was Red Dead 2, like, I think that's really impressive. And I don't really care for Rockstar that much, but I was impressed by them with what they did with Red Dead 2. So I'm going to give it to Red Dead.
All right, thank you, Alex. So I have played neither of these games. I don't know, like, obviously I knew Red Dead 2 was a thing and it came out and, Let's Players were playing it, that kind of thing. But I'd always heard cool things about Mass Effect 2 in that, like, just it was a good game. And also, I remember hearing that you could do kind of this comic book story thing to catch up with what was going on in the previous game and like make all the major choices and stuff. And I really liked that concept. And I gave my vote to Business Daddy Rockstar last time for GTA, but this time, fuck you, Rockstar. I'm just gonna go for Mass Effect out of spite. So that's my piece. All right, 4 minutes for discussion. Let's go.
You give your vote to Rockstar on the shitty game, and then you take it away from them for an actually good game.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I personally think so. I mean, again, I haven't played Mass Effect, and I haven't even watched much gameplay for it. I don't want to speak much against it. I don't want to say anything. That's just not fair for me to put. I'll just say for Red Dead that I personally found it to be. It felt like the perfect balance between immersion and fun, where I felt like I felt more like I was in an Old West movie than I was in the Old West. And I think that they accomplished that. I know that Rockstar's always kind of had a movie thing to their games, and they've always especially with GTA, made fun of movies and stuff. I think with Rockstar, they did a good job of poking fun in ways, but without ever becoming self-parody, and still telling its own story and telling its characters beautifully, and making you feel immersive while also telling the story of these people in a really incredible way. And also just kind of going off what Alex said, that there was so much hype leading up to it, and I even personally was kind of I didn't think it was gonna be bad by any means, but I had a little trepidation just because I was a huge Red Dead 1 fan, and I knew it was a prequel. I wasn't sure how they would tell their story well, if the new characters would be as interesting. And by the time I finished it, I loved Arthur more than John. I felt that it was a beautiful prequel. I felt it made the first game even better than it was before.
All right,
if you don't mind.
Is there anyone else who'd like to say something with the 2 minutes and 30 seconds we have left?
Yeah, real quick. Just for anybody who hasn't made up their mind yet, I'm sure Red Dead is a great game. I personally haven't played it again. I'm really hearing Zach, what Alex said about Zach being so happy about Red Dead come out, that warms my heart. I know that man. I know how rare it is to see him smile that wide about something. But I also want to say another 2 cents in for Mass Effect. They bring over stuff from the first game, and like all of your choices influence the game. And I think that's the main difference between that and Red Dead, because Mass Effect, you play the game, and Red Dead, it plays itself. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm going to just reiterate again. I'm just gonna reiterate one more time, like the multiplayer, really like they just like left people for like 3 months with like less than an hour of gameplay. It was weird. Like I'll use Zach too. Everyone's fucking using Zach. I remember having a long conversation multiple times with Zach about how much we were pissed off about the multiplayer. So
that's true.
Imagine this fucking shining loving man, absolutely devoted to this game. Imagine his shock and dismay at finding a half-assed and lackluster multiplayer. I'll leave it at that.
I've been swayed for Mass Effect 2, so I'm ready to
I just want to say I find this whole "you play the game where the game plays itself" argument kind of bizarre, because that can be applied to so many games, and that feels to me more like a thing that's like an argument being made because one game lets you make choices on the story, whereas one you play through the story.
I wouldn't even say it's that.
That's a good point, because like Red Dead can absolutely be like a very cinematic.
And that'd be like criticizing like a movie for telling its story. I feel like, rather than like
definitely.
No,
like,
but fucking like there's a difference between a game being linear and a game playing itself. Red Dead is linear, but it also plays itself because like the mechanics work so that you kind of need aim assist. I don't know. I feel like the shooting gameplay, like I don't know. Maybe Matt or someone else who's kind of more like
right,
a
the
gameplay.
thing that, like,
reaching time.
I just will say real quick that in my time on Mass Effect 2, I feel like the gameplay is fine, but it's nothing that ever improved.
Okay, thank you, Maceo. It is time to vote. Which one is the better sequel?
Also, that's bad now.
Put some coconut water. Yeah.
Looks like Mass Effect 2 takes it.
You're welcome.
Good stuff.
Much closer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought Red Dead was going to ultimately take it.
I think it's the fact that nobody played it for some reason.
Yeah, that could be it.
How are there only like 2 people or 3 people in this thing that have played it? I'm just amazed a game that big had that small player base.
Yep. Okay, next it's a matchup between Halo Reach and Uncharted 4. Maceo, you have the floor.
All right, Uncharted 4. I will always take a cinematic, exciting, thrilling linear game like this. I mean, granted, Reach does reach that too, but just over like a first-person shooter, I prefer third-person games. But also, I think that Uncharted 4 did a phenomenal job of wrapping up the story of the Uncharted series. I think it expanded the game and brought it to next gen in a bunch of fun ways. I think it kept its core feeling, and it never lost the feeling and the sense of adventure that you get through an Uncharted game. And yeah, like it may not be necessarily the best in the series, but it is one that I will always go back to. It's got some of the most thrilling set pieces, and just phenomenal storytelling, voice acting, everything. The graphics were some of the greatest ever at the time it was made, and it's still
Naughty Dog.
Very. And yeah, that's me.
All right, thank you, Maceo. Next, let's hear from Max.
Okay, so the Halo series has introduced like a ton of new features throughout their games, and Halo Reach implemented literally all of them, and all of them very well. Halo Reach was Bungie's finale with Halo, and they pulled out all of the stops. It had a new and improved Forge mode, which wasn't replicated properly in Halo 4, and Halo 3 was good, but it was so much better in Reach. I spent literally hundreds of hours in it. It had new and improved Firefight mode, which had like so much customization. It was ridiculous. You could break the game if you wanted to. And like all of that is without even mentioning Reach's campaign. Like I didn't even really care for the campaign that much, but like it was still like people loved it. Like all of my friends, they just loved the campaign way more than I did. But I still think it was decent. I'm good.
All right,
So
thank you, Max.
So
go ahead,
Max, and this I put this one in. So I got fucking skin on this game because like Max scratched on it a bit, but I want to emphasize that Halo Reach has more in common with like Little Big Planet than it does with other shooters. It is like gamers are stupid little babies that eat their gruel, this gray fucking mulch, and I don't think people really appreciate just how huge of a value Reach was. Like, I don't think a single game has had that much like entry level content just available to, like, again, we're talking theater, we're talking forge, we're talking firefight, and we're talking a campaign. All of those, even if you like have like the most basic interaction with, like 10 hours each, maybe a little less in theater if you don't care. But I personally like it's a crazy detailed game, and like there's so much fun to just like zoom around a match you previously had to like see all the mechanics and stuff. Fucking rules, man.
Thank you, Mark. That is time. Next, let's go to Sam.
I'm gonna go ahead and start with, I could never get behind Uncharted. They were great games, but I could never do them. I'm personally not a huge fan of single player games. Halo Reach, on the other hand, I'm going to mention Max because Max was 90% of the exposure I had to any Halo. He had an Xbox. I've never owned an Xbox as much as I've wanted to. We literally have countless hours in Forge, like 2 a.m. nights playing Forge together at his house, making the dumbest maps ever, and just destroying warthogs and mongooses and everything. Just with the time that we had on that game are days that I wish still existed. I would consider those the glory days of my life because of how much fun we had on that map, that game. So I'm picking Halo Reach here.
All right, thank you, Sam. Going for Reach with the sentimental play. All right, next let's hear from Matt.
Okay, so I played, Halo Reach a lot less than I played Uncharted, but Uncharted 4, that is. But that's mostly because, like, I played the campaign for Thief's End, and, like, honestly, the multiplayer is kind of trash. And I think that, like, the single player is, like, should not be overlooked. But I think Uncharted 3, like, kind of brought more to the table in general, like, for multiplayer reasons, and like I don't know, like some of like the cinematics were really cool in Uncharted 4. I'm not saying that like it wasn't cool, but I think that as a sequel, it didn't really bring like that much to the table as much as Uncharted 3 did, and so for that reason my vote goes for Reach, even though I haven't played it as much.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Next let's hear from Alex.
All right, so it's been a hot minute since I've actually played both of these games here. I put in a fair amount of multiplayer time on Halo Reach back in high school, and I also played through the campaign multiple times. Thought it was really good at the time, but my experiences in single player games at the time was very limited. And then I also got to play Uncharted 4: Thief's End a couple years back, and this was actually my first time playing an Uncharted game. So I can't speak like Matt did with like comparing it to Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. I do hear that 2 and 3 are excellent. But playing Uncharted 4 by itself was an extremely just fun, cool experience. Visually, I didn't realize games could look that good. Naughty Dog has had a special place in my heart since I played the first Last of Us and Uncharted 4. So as much as I poured in my time into Halo Reach in high school, I still think I'll give it to Uncharted 4.
All right, thanks, Alex. And I'll wrap this up by saying I have not played Reach very much at all. I have been meaning to play it. I have in the MCC, but I have played through the entirety of Uncharted 4's single player. I definitely agree with Matt that Uncharted 4 didn't bring as much to the multiplayer table as, say, 3 did, but just looking at the sheer graphical fidelity they do, I mean, it's a Naughty Dog game. They always up it to an insane degree, and they really did it this time, while at the same time improving on mechanics they had in their previous games, like stealth. I don't know if you remember playing, say, Uncharted 2 or Uncharted 3. If you messed up one time and you couldn't really tell whether the enemies had sight on you, that's it. You're in a full firefight. There's no stealth anymore. But with Uncharted 4, there's actually some nuance. You can escape fights. You can tell when people are noticing you. I think Uncharted 4 is a great game. All right, that's my time. So now let's open up the discussion.
I just want to bear repeating real quick that, like, again, I think I've been throwing out a couple shade of like, oh, you know, like this game is a great single player and but its multiplayer was kind of weak. And I think that we should approach that most of the time, you know, with a fair grain of salt. They put a lot of time into their single player, whatever. Reach, like, there is, again, like I said, there's no game, I think, that is comparable in terms of value to Reach, in terms of like how much they packed into this $60 game, and none of it sucks. You can make a case that like you know, like the campaign is sort of hokey and goofy, but like I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like and the even firefight, you know, quite possibly the most like ham-fisted part of it, is one of the best horde modes ever in a shooter. It's deep, the waves are complex, and they change in a very elaborate way. I don't know, like I just like looking back to what Bungie did there, it makes me nauseous because thinking about the amount of work it would take to build this game in so many different directions and have it all be as polished as it is, scary, very scary.
That's a fair point.
I think so. I mean, I like, you know, I think, you know, we've said a couple times, you know, games that have like that are single player focused but then have kind of a bad multiplayer. For my personal opinion, I like the Uncharted 4 multiplayer. I actually was playing it recently and having a lot of fun with it. For a game that I think, and I honestly like I know a lot of you guys love Uncharted 3 a lot. That's probably my least favorite of all the Uncharted games as a whole. I really love it still. I love it. I think the whole series is phenomenal, but for my personal opinion, that was my least favorite one. And I dabbled with the multiplayer in that. I had fun playing like the co-op stuff with you guys. I didn't love the co-op stuff. I liked doing it because I was with you guys. But like, I think for a series that did not need to have multiplayer at all, that could just focus entirely on creating a single player experience that was phenomenal, for them to even like have a multiplayer that, in my personal opinion, is actually worth playing and enjoyable and captures a relatively good amount of the spirit of the game, the single player, I think that's something that has to be spoken to. You know, Halo Reach, I didn't say anything about it. It's a great game, and I think they master all their mechanics phenomenally. But I think it does have to be spoken to a game that does almost more than is required of it.
Yeah, you know.
Okay, I would like to.
Go ahead, Matt.
So just real quick, on that note, I like think that like it's great to have like, you know, something that would, a multiplayer experience that would kind of similarly like, you know, kind of give you the experience of the single player. But like they kind of established the precedent in Uncharted 3 that like the multiplayer was great and that like you could play with friends and stuff like that. There was even couch co-op and stuff. And then Uncharted 4 drops, you cannot even connect a second controller to play like couch co-op in Uncharted 4. Like literally the option is not there. They literally like took it out of the game.
Yeah.
That's
So,
not Uncharted 4's fault,
again,
though. That's just the way the gaming industry has been leaning towards, like in most
yeah, but they
recent
established
years.
the precedent. They established the precedent in
I
Uncharted 3
thought-
as a series, you know,
Yeah,
and like I
Again,
don't
with
understand why they
Uncharted
threw it
3,
away.
I felt like Uncharted 3 had more, that the multiplayer was more of just a throw-in than...
Wait, hold on. Can we get Max?
Yeah, sorry, Max.
Yeah, if you're talking about like, you know, doing what's required and slightly more, Halo Reach did what was required and did like way more. Again, what Mark said about packing in a billion shit into this game is just, it's ridiculous. And I think it went far beyond what was expected of
And
it.
it's all polished.
All right.
Yo, can we just take a second here?
Let's vote.
Somebody just posted that our cornfield maze that we have just caught on fire and is out of control.
Like,
It's like
shit.
It's like 8 miles from my house.
Holy shit,
dude.
Shit, keep
So
us
we
posted.
currently have a forest fire going on 8 miles away from my house.
Hey, welcome to the
Holy shit,
club.
Keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's just no joke.
we have encountered that shit.
Halo, yeah, there we go. I have voted.
Let's go,
We're
baby.
waiting
That's
on
what I
some
like
folks
to
still.
see.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, Halo Reach takes it. I'll say
fanboys.
what Mark was saying about how they had all these different things going in different polish, all these different things going on, and still everything was polished. Really struck a chord with me, and also just thinking about like how iconic it was at the time it was released, how much of an impact it had.
Yeah.
All right, hey, just so we're aware on my time, because I have to go to bed soon. Can we finish out the next class and then consider that the first segment?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's the last one of this.
Yeah, it's the last one of this bracket area.
Yeah, that seems like a perfect stopping point. All right.
Good,
So,
because I wanted to cover this one tonight.
I wonder why.
Fucking naughty. Fucking
Okay. Pokemon Emerald versus God of War. Maceo, you have the floor.
Oh, I could really get into this in a lot of ways. I don't want to be mean to Max, so I will keep it positive, and I will just say that I was never much of a God of War fan. And actually, I bought this game, and when I first played through it, I was bad at it, and I just kind of rushed. I didn't like it. I went back and played through it again, and it became one of my favorite games I'd ever played. It was an incredible experience on its own. It stood on its own while still respecting what came before it. I thought it did a really beautiful combat system. The relationship between Kratos and Atreus is stunning. I'm very, very thoroughly impressed by God. I'm done.
All right. Thank you, Maceo. Max, you're up.
Okay, listen to me very carefully for a second. Forget about God of War for the period that I have to talk. Pokemon is one of those franchises that is so big at this point that people kind of hate it, and I totally get that. But let me take you back for a moment for a period of time when that was all the rage. I got my first Pokemon game when I was 7 years old. It was Pokemon Emerald, and it was one of my favorite games ever. There are so many things about Pokemon Emerald that make it such a high quality game. First of all, just integrating Team Magma and Team Aqua into the same storyline, which they were previously separated, it added hours into the game. Encounters, exploration, boss battles, and finally, a pulse-pounding conclusion to their storyline involving a face-off that didn't exist in the previous games between legendary Pokemon in the middle of a city that only you could stop. It was such a satisfying end to that storyline, and it wasn't even the end of the game. They added so much stuff after that. They added the Battle Frontier, which is huge.
Okay, Max, we're reaching time. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Next, Mark, let's go.
Yeah, Pokemon games, I'm just going to say, I have a lot of not great things to say about both these games, so I'm going to spread the nastiness around. Pokemon, it's fine, just doesn't really seem like it's innovated a lot in this whole sequel thing. And God of War, I thoroughly enjoyed. And then I went back and played it a second time, and then I watched a lot of stuff on God of War 3. And something occurred to me that they basically took out all of platforming in God of War 4. There is no jump button. You walk up to ledges and then you press a button so that Kratos can automatically jump across for you. There's no you climb along preset cliff paths and stuff. I get that the combat is very deep and stuff, but I don't get why they took out the platforming in a game that had such rich, interesting platforming. Now, would it have fucked with the tone to give him a pair of giant wings and have him flying around and shit?
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, but they could have done it another way.
Thank you. Okay, next, Sam.
All right, so I'm going to use my time to tell a story about Maxwell here.
Oh, gosh.
Fucking crap.
I remember going to a baseball game, specifically the Super Regionals, where basically we had to win the game to move on to what is considered the College World Series. And Maxwell brings his Game Boy Advance to play Pokemon for the whole entire baseball game. So out of my love for Max and the fact that he is the closest friend that I have, I'm just going to pick Pokemon for him because that's what I know he loves. And that's what friends do.
Even though
there we go.
You made him sound like a dick.
No, it's my love in the fact that I'm drunk. So okay.
All right, thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Next, let's hear from.
Is this whole thing just gonna be Max and Sam fucking telling stories about each other?
Pretty much.
All right.
Damn
Matt, you're
right.
up.
Oh,
Okay,
Tell us
so
the game story.
I haven't played Emerald very much. I did play Fire Red though. That was or no, Leaf Green was the one. I still have that one, and that was a great game. I can't really like say anything about like the kind of the sequelness of it or what it added, but I can say that it Pokemon has always been a great series, and like they always like add something new, even if it is a small amount in their next game. But God of War really like kind of brought me into the whole God of War, kind of universe. And I never played the other ones before it, even though I had like a PS2 and those were supposed to be really good games. But I don't know. I really enjoyed this God of War game. And I'm sorry, I don't really have any love for Pokemon. Call me Pokemonist, but not really something I ever played too much. Yep.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Alex, you have the floor.
All right. My vote is for God of War. I'm gonna take my time to shit on Pokemon for a bit. I loved Pokemon growing up, and I really liked Emerald, and I agree with the things that Matt said. Why Emerald was great, but Pokemon as a franchise isn't the fucking games, guys. It's fucking anime and it's merch. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company don't give a shit about the games, because all we get is the same fucking rock, paper, scissors core gameplay with some new Pokemon and a new region every year. And the prices just keep going up, and nothing has changed about the core mechanics of the game of Pokemon. And Pokemon Emerald, whenever, like 10, 15 years ago when it came out, it was great. But as a whole, Pokemon hasn't changed since then much, other than like visually and adding some new types and new moves here and there. Like, it's an insult to gaming, I feel like, and it's not going to change because it still sells a lot for some fucking reason. And I'm done.
Go off, King.
Thank
Go
you.
off.
Whoa. Hot takes there. All right, I'm gonna bring this one back and try and be a little more positive. So I do agree with Alex that I think I can't vote for Pokemon because I feel like, game by game, it doesn't add that much. Whereas God of War, like, I have never played a game where I was this invested in a relationship between two digital characters. I have never played a game where they draw you in that much. They give you reasons, not just in terms of like story and character development, but like they enforce the relationship you have with Atreus through the gameplay. Like, he assists you, he helps you when you need help, you have to help him, and all the cutscenes and like everything. It's just such amazing storytelling. I don't think it's Pokemon doesn't even come close. All right, that's my piece.
I would like to start off the discussion.
Go ahead, Max.
So I want to say that, like, I totally understand. I get God of War was an amazing game. I personally didn't play it. I'd love to. I get whatever, you guys have experienced with that game and you love about it. And, you can say the same for me as well. I also want to preface this with saying that I think Alex is right. He is right. It doesn't change every year. I fucking love it, and I will totally take that. But it doesn't change every year. You're absolutely right.
You're part of the problem, Max.
Pokemon Emerald.
Sounds like another game that we have.
No, hold on. Except about Pokemon Emerald. And the main reason that I'm arguing that is because of the entire competitive scene. Pokemon Emerald is the entire cornerstone of the competitive field of Pokemon. Special training methods, moves, egg breeding, shiny hunting, none of those were a thing before Pokemon Emerald, and they were all introduced because of the Battle Frontier, which was an extra area that they added in Pokemon Emerald, again, that they didn't have to, and they haven't done since then, which is part of the problem, and I get that, but again, this is not about those other games. This is about this game. Literally the entire cornerstone of all of the competitive Pokemon is because of Pokemon Emerald. Like, it started there, and the core piece of it, it's like, yeah, just 1 second, last thing. Like, I totally understand, again, all of the God of War stuff, I totally get it, and also, the competitive scene exists to this day because of Emerald. And that was something significant and new that I did not get to say earlier and is completely overlooked.
Okay, Sam?
So I'd like to point out, based off of listening to everyone's pitches, a lot of you guys base the Pokemon decision off of Pokemon as a whole instead of Pokemon Emerald. And I really think Max has made some great points about it. Now, I'm aware about how everyone feels about God of War, but we're looking at this as a sequel, not as a whole series of games. So I think you guys need to narrow your thoughts down just a little bit farther into the sequel aspect of Emerald instead of the whole aspect of Pokemon.
If you vote against Pokemon Emerald, at the very least, vote against it because you like God of War and not because you hate the Pokemon series.
What the fuck I want, Max?
Whoa.
So,
I think that's it for me for sure.
So, I just want to say one last thing. So I agree about all the stuff as Pokemon as a whole. I've never played Emerald. I've never really played any of the Pokemon games to any extent. But one of the things we've been talking about a lot is games evolving, games, introducing new stuff in their, follow-ups. God of War, the new one, changed everything from its original series. It could have gone back to what it was before and just been a big, cool hack and slash in the vein of how it was before, but they dared to go and completely reinvent the game in a way that could have alienated fans everywhere. But they pulled it off in such a way to make it that fans of the series loved it, people who never played loved it. They, created this whole interesting, incredible mechanic of upgrade systems and worlds and everything, and built this beautiful story into it all. They truly, with that game, I feel, innovated the series. Whereas I'm sure many things were added in Emerald. I don't want to take anything away from it, but one thing I do know is the core gameplay itself remained the same, which isn't a bad thing. I think any game has that. But God of War really took their past and just stepped over it and was like, we're doing something.
All right, thank you, Maceo. That is the end of discussion time. It is now voting time. Which is the better video game sequel, Pokemon Emerald or God of War? Some shifting here. All right. God of War takes it.
I'm not surprised.
You tried, Max.
Sorry,
You really did.
You should play it, Max. It's
From
fantastic.
the beginning, I knew that I was going to lose. I just wanted to make legitimate points and not just
You made some solid points, Max. I will give you that. You brought up a lot stronger of an argument than I thought ever could possible, and I am sorry if I got off a little unhinged there. And this current status of Pokemon and the status of Pokemon the last 10 years really just irks my ire. But that being said, like I said, I played the shit out of Emerald too, and I thought it was great. I didn't even know that all these things that you mentioned were new things within
cool.
like Pokemon. I actually had no idea. That being said, and Sam, thank you for kind of narrowing us down and reining me back in. But even in the sense of a sequel, what Maceo, I think, said it very well. They changed the tone of the game, the themes, aesthetics, combats, like they did change it
to the earlier games too.
Yeah,
Still
exactly.
keeping the soul of the series.
Yeah. Whereas like it sounds like there was a lot of new things that really were important to Pokemon as a game franchise that came with Emerald. But comparatively speaking, I still think it pales in comparison sequel wise to God of War. And you should get it because it's like only $15-20 on PlayStation Store, which is ridiculous.
True. It's like
Great deal. You'll enjoy the shit out of it. It's so
really.
good.
Get it right now.
Although you might suck at it at the beginning. I sucked.
All right. Well, Sam, sounds like you got to go. So I guess we'll end the first session of the Crewcast here. But it was lovely having you all here to discuss this. This took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. So I'll hopefully plan.
This was short for me.
I'll plan another session soon. I'm gonna aim for like next week, hopefully, but I'll double check all the schedules.